Well, it's an honor to do this, and I want to dedicate this to my big brother who died 33 years ago. His yahrzeit is in 2 weeks, my brother Les. So this is my story. In early March 1981, my boyfriend John and I moved into the coolest neighborhood in the city, the East Village. We were both in our 20s, and everything seemed perfect. We had been a couple for 4 years living on Long Island with our families. Moving to New York City seemed a sheret for us, since I was from the projects in the Bronx, and John was from Queens. It had only been 12 years since the Stonewall Uprising, when others, unknown to us, fought for our rights. It was a very exciting time to be young and gay and with a partner. It was our big adventure to reclaim the Big Apple as our own. But it was not meant to be. 2 months after living in New York, I received a phone call from my little brother David, telling me that our big brother Les had become an IV drug user. Les had always been very daring and prone to doing stupid stuff, but IV drugs didn't make sense. 2 months later, John and I and a few other gay friends were at Jones Beach, of course the gay section, when John showed me a small article in the New York Times about 41 young gay guys in San Francisco who died of mysterious causes. I brushed it off, saying, why should we in New York be concerned about a few gay guys in California? I later ate my words. My big brother using IV drugs and the little article in the New York Times were just the beginning for me. That article was to be the harbinger of an ongoing disaster for me, my family, and my community. What began as a trickle soon turned into a tsunami. There was a movie in the early 1980s called You Can't Stop the Music, stupid movie, starring the Village People and Steve Guttenberg about the disco craze. One of the lines was, you can't stop the music, nobody can stop the music. But soon enough, the music was stopped by an invisible, deadly virus. Shortly after that movie was released, young gay men who loved disco began to die. Okay. In 1986, I enrolled in a medical study that had nothing to do with AIDS. The people running the study contacted me to tell me there was something wrong with my platelets. You had to give a blood donation. I instinctively knew this was not going to be it was going to be a very big deal. I was too scared to actually take the HIV test, so I asked the doctor at the Community Health Project, the forerunner to Callan Lord, to test just my T cells. When I returned to the doctor, he said something like, with you being gay and having such a low T cell count, you have contracted AIDS, you have contracted HIV, the virus that causes AIDS. It's funny how the human brain works. When he first told me the bad news, I temporarily went deaf, really. I didn't hear a word he said. When he repeated it, I understood and I was scared. I knew I had to keep this secret, even from John. I was ashamed of myself for allowing this to happen. No one must know. I thought maybe I can hold out until the cure, which is probably right around the corner. I cried all the way home, but I would never shed another tear along my journey with AIDS. But I decided I didn't want to die of denial, so I immediately started taking all the drugs to fight AIDS, AZT, DDI, DDC, many more. It was a heartbreaking time for the gay community. Some of us were infected, but all of us were affected. So many young gay guys, some of whom I knew and many I would never have the pleasure to know, were just disappearing. Death was stalking the gay community, but I remained silent out of fear for my own family, friends, community, and John. But I am proud to say that I was at the very first ACT UP demonstration on Wall Street on March 24th, 1987, but I still feel guilty for not allowing myself to get arrested. That would have been a good thing. Then everything changed when my big brother tested positive for AIDS in the summer of 1987. All those years I was watching my friends get AIDS and die, and I was infected, and now my big brother, good-looking and athletic, had it. For me, AIDS seemed to be everywhere. On New Year's Eve, 1988, my brother came down with pneumocystis carinii pneumonia, which is an opportunistic infection. At that point, I told my family that Les had crossed over to full-blown AIDS. In those days, an AIDS diagnosis meant you would be dead within a year and a half. Almost every weekend, my little brother and I visited our family. I told my brother to hang on. I would say things like, you don't want to be the last, you don't want to be the one who dies the day before the cure comes. Boy, was I off. It's been 40 years, and although there are great life-saving drugs, I take them, there's still no cure. Every week we visited my brother, and every week he deteriorated. In August, he had a series of mini strokes, leaving him unable to smile, speak, or even swallow. I had seen my friends die from AIDS, but not so upfront and personal as with my brother. I saw him wasting away at the age of 38. I remembered how many of my gay friends had done the same. But it was never far from my thoughts that I, too, might go through it. It really was a very difficult time for me, grieving for my friends, watching my brother die, scared of my own health. When my brother died, 16 days before the first World AIDS Day, on December 17, 1988, his yard site's in 2 weeks, he looked like a very old man, withered, silent. From the day he died until this very day, I've never gotten over his untimely death. But my next thought was, when would I be put to the test? Which continues. In the spring of 1994, I seemed to be falling asleep, lethargic, and unable to stand up even. My mother and my friends and John begged me to go to the hospital, but I was sure it was nothing. On the afternoon of May 11th, 1994, I collapsed in my apartment from anemia. I instinctively put my right arm in front of me to protect myself. That May 11th, John left work early that day, May 12th, to find me unconscious and in a coma. When he saw I was still breathing, he got me to nearby Cabrini Hospital. They put me on life support with only a 25% chance of living through the first night. My best friend, John Sharkey, saved my life. When I came to, the first thing I did was ask to speak to John. The nurse called him up. I spoke to him. He told me what had happened. But because I laid on my right arm for so long, I developed sepsis, which is a deadly bacterial blood infection. This was a perfect storm. To fight AIDS and sepsis at the same time seemed almost impossible. The doctors tried to save my life and my arm. Then I also lost the ability to walk. I was developing kidney and liver failure. After 8 weeks, it was clear that my right arm could not be saved. The doctors gave me a choice: either have your right arm amputated, and you might live another 6 months, that might never walk again, or if you choose not to get amputated, you'll die soon. I have no idea why I hesitated, but I did. My decision to do the right thing and amputate was based on the old Jewish concept to choose life, any life, a disabled life, a short life, but life. I thought it might be a challenge becoming left-handed, but I adapted immediately. The first thing my left hand did was to sign the consent to amputate the right. Sometimes I would pray to God to save me. During 10 weeks in the hospital, I was overwhelmed by the number of people visiting. I said to myself many times, I will not give up, I will not give in. One lucky thing was that it was Stonewall 25 and gay games in New York, so I had many friends from all over the country visiting me. And one more page. But one visitor definitely stands out, and that was Rabbi Kleinbaum. I'll never forget her simple but powerful words. She said, "Shep, you are not your lost arm. I'm more than that." And as it turns out, I believe I am the long-time survivor of AIDS at CBST. I've been infected for 37 years. I believe I'm the only AIDS patient Rabbi Kleinbaum visited and held hands with and prayed with who was actually still alive. When I left the hospital, I had only 7 T cells and I weighed 96 pounds, not even a 98-pound weakling, less. I missed so many fabulous events during the summer in New York of 1994, like the Gay Games, the International Gay Square Dance Convention in Washington, D.C., and of course, Stonewall 25. I promised myself then and there that I would never miss another Gay Games, and I haven't. In fact, I won a gold medal in 2002 in Sydney. I would never miss another Square Dance Convention, and I haven't. Even though I missed Stonewall 25, I promised myself not only would I be there for Stonewall 50, but I would help to make it happen, and I did. 6 months after I got out of the hospital, which was the amount of time my doctors said I had to live, turned out to be my 43rd birthday. So amazingly, I didn't die. I now felt like I had a real chance to live out my life. Now every birthday I celebrate, I think about it as the day I cheated death and proved my doctors wrong. Through my whole ordeal, I never asked why me? Why not me? Good things happen to bad people all the time. But now, after all I went through, I do ask God, why me? Why was I spared? I do not have survivor's guilt. I do have survivor's responsibility. I feel responsible to tell my story and theirs. I try to honor them and remember the ones I knew. Maybe because so many of my friends died from AIDS, and I nearly died from it, I now live a life with more purpose and vigor and intentionality. I try to give back to the community that has supported me every step of the way as I was challenged by AIDS and fighting for my life. I try to give back by being active with the Gay Games, Gays Against Guns, the World Congress of GLBT Jews, Sundance Outdoor Club, and of course this synagogue, Congregation Beit Simchat Torah. Oh, that goes on. So what did I learn? I thought about it and came up with a mnemonic, which got me through my experience with AIDS. It's FGH. F is for faith. I never gave up my faith in my doctors or in my God, in the universe or in my own will to live. G is for gratitude. No matter how bad things got, I always felt gratitude. There was a time in the hospital when I lost use of 3 of my 4 limbs. So even though I lost my arm, I was so grateful to get back the use of my legs. For me, the glass is not half empty or half full. For me, it is overflowing. And H is for humor. All through my ordeal, I was always making jokes about my disability and my situation, sometimes to make myself feel better and sometimes to put my friends at ease. I needed a little humor to get through the pain and the challenge. Of course, I learned to listen to my mother, my friends, and especially to John. I learned it the hard way. I learned that the gay community, especially including CBST and ACT UP and others, really did save my life. I learned life is fragile and precarious and precious. Grab as much as you can, as I do, and always have gratitude. No matter how bad things get, there's always something to feel gratitude for. I just have to have a shout out for 6 of my friends kind of came together with John as being the head of it. They were like a posse, and they interacted with the doctors, and they looked after me. And that's John Sharkey, Jackie Slivko, Martin Friedman, Bill Bolesky, who's recently died, and David Krause, and Mark Black over here. I'm so proud to be able to stand here after all I've been through and say that I beat AIDS. AIDS did not beat me. I won, AIDS lost. I'm a survivor. Well, that's my story. And act up, fight back, fight AIDS, and fight to live, as I did. That's it.